Found it. Turned the lock a little bit far. The old D10 ball went winging on out. So that's fun. Yeah, back in. There we go. Well, new day. A little more daylight out there. I got the shop all cleared out, so I got some room to work. Um, did realize one thing last night as I was grabbing dinner. Um, the FJ40s have a weird quirk where you got your door pin that goes here, and you actually have to fold the windshield down if you want to put it in from the top. Um, for whatever reason, Toyota did not give you enough room there. All they had to do is slide this hinge down like a half inch, um, which really wouldn't make a difference on the door. But yeah, you have to fold the windshield down, which means you have to take the top off, or have the top out of the way. Which typically you'd take the top off and then take the doors off. And then if you put the top back on, you have to put the doors on first, which I find kind of weird because you'd think the doors would go on after. But anyway, I debated loosening the top off so you could lift this front, flop the windshields to get the pins started. But the other trick some people will do is they've actually got grippers. There's like a serrated part, for lack of a better word. Serrated is not it. There's a grooved part. Anyway, you can drive them in from the bottom, upside down, basically. So this one would go top down. This one would go bottom up. They're a pretty tight fit, so they're not really going to go anywhere. Just throw an extra pin in the glove box in case something does happen. It's not like the doors are going to go flying off. You got another hinge. So I may just do that. Drive them up from the bottom. The other trick people will do, which I may try because I got some of the spare old pins, is if you cut the head, knock some of the head off, and you can put that flat side back. Basically, it gives you just enough clearance to get that pin in, drive it in. You can spin that so then it looks clean. Same deal. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out when I get there. But that was an interesting one where just as I was closing up the shop, getting kind of went, that pin doesn't fit. And I remember it from when I was doing it before, and I remember people talking about it, that you can't get the pin out of the way. So you'll see a lot of windshields that are dinged up from people driving their pins out. And you can get her out if you try, but she'll rub right up the windscreen. Anyway, that was a funny one of those, order matters, but is what it is. Do need to sink the top down. It is sitting up just a little bit. Again, we got that foam gasket in there. As we suck down on those bolts, should bring her into line. But I think where we're going to start after that, which isn't really anything I'm going to film, is getting these rear doors tacked on. I do have the old ones here. These are the originals that were pretty rough. One of them has been a donor. I don't remember which. But yeah, there's the original doors that were on it. I'm going to keep parts and stuff, and I may actually try and salvage it enough to make a tailgate. You may be able to use the bottoms. But got to strip the hardware off it for one. I'll kind of mix and match between the two sets and see which latches and which parts are less worn. We'll see. But these doors are pretty simple. But before we even do that, I think what I'm going to do is try and get them hung on the hardtop without weather strip. I do have hinges that you can take the pins out now. Normally the rear hinges, you got to take them off. But I poked them out so I could clean them up. And the 40 channel guy, he had a trick of using scooter axles. So I do have them set up that way. So the nice thing is we can get the hinges on, get those rear doors lined up nice and square without weather strip kind of fighting you, because once you put that weather strip on, they're going to not want to sit. And we can get those door gaps nice without fighting all that pressure. And then the nice thing is I can leave all the hinges where they are and just drive the pins back out, kind of like the front doors. And then we can lay them on the bench, work on the weather strip, work on getting the hardware flipped around. Then we can dunk them back on the rig, and everything should be lined up. And then the weather strip just needs to do its thing and age to seat in. So that is going to be the plan. I've got all the hinges and stuff piled up in a box. I'm gonna have to go grab a door. We'll start with probably the left one, just because the left one closes before the right one. It's a good reason as any. We'll start with that guy. We are going to have to work around the spare a little bit, which is what it is. But hopefully we can get those squared up on the rig without fighting too much, and then bring them back on over and get them flushed out and then back on the rig, and at least have the rear doors on today. And then we got to see what we got to do for the fronts. But gonna go snag those doors, or at least a door and the hinges, and see what we can do. Well, here's our little goodie box. Got some 3M Super Black. That should work pretty well with the Toyota OEM weather strip. Depending on which weather strip you get, there are different types of rubber and there's different types of glue. But apparently the Super Black works well with the Uncle Toyota weather strip. There it is on the bottom. Made in Japan by Toyota. Got a couple bags of the hardware off of the doors that I repaired. So we'll see how this compares to what's over on the other doors. But it's here. There are a few pins, kind of linkages in the basement I got to go snag. But there's the inside handle of the other door, yada, yada, yada. I do have a couple new strikers that go top and bottom. Those are really worn, but luckily you can still get those. Got a set of rear hinges here, uppers and lowers, lefts and rights. They are all kind of different. And there's those little scooter axles. They do need to get trimmed. And I did order up another set just to try. These are some 60 mils that need to get trimmed. I did find a place that had 57s, which should be really close. And they almost look like they were stainless. They didn't specify, but it was interesting. So anyway, we got these. That'll let us get the doors on. You can always swap the pins out later. So that's a good thing. But those will let us dunk the doors on, like I say, and then you can get the hinges all aligned and then peel them back off. Got our front door hinges here as well. Obviously there's only half, the other half's on the rig. Bunch of door pins and door bushings. Those are for the fronts, but we do have a couple spare pins as well to mess with, like I said, that we can try grinding on. This is actually another stainless pin. They sell them in sets of 4, and they're the same as the windshield pins, so I just got another set of door pins, and you only need 2 out of the 4 because there's only two pins for the hood. Right. Oh, windshield, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say the hood pins are smaller. So they're the same as the windshield pins, so you can steal a couple out of the doors, and then I have a couple spares, which is fine. So that's that bucket. Plenty of goodies. Should keep us busy for the afternoon, so let's get to it. I'll get it for this year. That isn't too bad. That one could go. This door needs to go like that a little bit, I think, because it's wider on the bottom and a little bit close for comfort on the top. Although, I guess let's see what we got everywhere. Yeah, that's definitely a little snug. So either this guy needs to get wiggled out, or that guy needs to get wiggled out, or a little bit of both. So. Well, gave them both a little bit of a wiggle jiggle. Gave us a little more room up top there. As you move it, you get a different reveal. It should be pretty close to even with the top, which gives us at least a decent amount. I got a little bit of wiggle out of that guy and a little bit out of that guy, so it's probably what we're going to live with. I don't know if I have any great way to hold it. I used to use the welder's magnets, but can't do that anymore. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. I don't think tape will do much. Might be able to get her to pinch with these leather gloves. Try that, I guess. Yeah, that one's getting a little pinched. Yeah, that's pretty good. So let's see how we're doing. So bottom edges are looking pretty good. It's pretty good even reveal across. The one through the middle is pretty good. This one was always a little tight. For some reason, I could not get that out. It's like this hardtop had a little bit to it because the bottom and the top were pretty even, and then there's just kind of this closeness where it's like this hardtop needed to come out. This side's pretty straight. Obviously can't see a whole lot with the blue on there. She's a little tight here. Might be able to slide, get that corner to slide a little bit out, which would give me yet a little bit more room on the bottom. So I'll probably try and do that one last time. But all in all, they're sitting pretty good. I did play around a little bit with the weather strip, so I kind of have an idea where that needs to sit. The factory stuff does look pretty nice. So I think we'll be sitting pretty good there once we get that glued on. And yeah, when I was doing the work originally, I didn't worry too much about this panel gap because the spare is going to cover up to somewhere in here. But yeah, there we got some doors on the rear. I'll take it. Or at least the start of some doors on the rear. Still plenty of work to do. A little slower going than I thought. Anyway, we'll get these all buttoned in. Might pop the hinge pins out and zip them off and plug them back in just so that's done with. And then, yeah, we'll have to work on the weather strip and getting the hardware in. These are pretty simple, so I don't think it should be too much. But we'll see what we got to do. Well, there went the sunshine and some rain on the way. That's October for you up here. Gonna start digging in, see what we got in our bag of hardware. So this is the simpler of the two. This is the driver's side rear door. And it's in a bag from air compressor parts. Let's see what we got. So this is the striker plate that goes on the door for the other one to hook to. It's because the two doors connect to each other. There's our handle. Not terrible. A few spare screw clips. There's a plate that goes on the back there Just uses sheet metal screws. I've got some of those from the other guy. We've got some pretty shady old grommets. So this is the fastener that was up top that held this guy. Yeah, this guy went here. So he's a little grungy, but not terrible. So he's going to go in there, and he would ride on a striker plate on the top. So we can clean that guy up a little bit. So that's easy enough. There's a linkage that goes here, and I'm assuming comes down to this guy. But I don't recall what, oh, there they are. I was going to say there's the clips that slide on the end and clip to the arm. That one's a little greasy. A couple screws. This is the pin for the handle. There's a, should be a roll pin. They had a cotter pin in this one. But all in all, this mechanism feels not terrible. And they got two big pan head screws. Go on that guy. These two, oh, interesting. So there's, oh, that's threaded from the back. It's interesting. It's interesting that they have it beveled like you'd have a screw like this guy. You'd think they'd have a screw that sat in there, but this is actually threaded, so it is coming from the other side. But he's not terrible. Oh, that's right, it's got a little spring to it. Oop. Got a little spring in its step. So there's two screws that I'm assuming came from the back side for him. And he's missing the rubber grommet. So at least we know what we got. But as long as we're in here, we've got another one of the same. So this is this big fella. Is he going to come out? I don't know. So we'll start another group on that part of the board. Oops. I need the other one. Yeah, we should be ready to rock and roll. Yeah, she's a little chewed out. I am curious to see, maybe able to make these into a tailgate if you take the top off. We'll see how much take the top off. It is not the easiest top to take on and off. But it got a spare hinge. Stuff like that. So definitely some parts to pull. Chuck the tops probably. We'll see. But this guy is stripped down. So now it's a matter of seeing what we can use. So this is the upper. He's in good shape, he's just a little dirty. So we'll take that. This was my lower. He is not in good shape. Although the upper part isn't too bad. It's this lower plate that's pretty chewy. This one's not bad. It may have been the upper on the other door. I'll have to go look at the footage. I don't recall, but the foot seems pretty clean for being a lower. But realistically, it should fit kind of the way we had the other one. So other than a little bit of a clean, we've got a lower. I don't know that either mechanism's any better than the other. Wiggle, wiggle. This one seems a little tighter. He's going back in the parts pile. This is definitely the cleaner of the two for that. Those two screws are pretty darn clean. Those two aren't. These two are. Oh, so there was an upper and a lower, and then yeah. So really those could probably go in the parts pile. We'll see what we do for these big button head screw fasteners. Kind of a weird little screw. Doesn't have to be a screw head. So we got a little bit of spare hardware there. Oops. There's only one of the gasket, so he's definitely a keeper. And I guess I don't know, we'll have to give it a scrub and see. I think the one off the blue door is a little bit better, but it's got some grunge on it. I think it's like an overspray, which may have actually helped it. So I'm going to go clean that up. I think I'll give this a scrub and see what we end up with. Well, we'll see what we got. Most of it's cleaned up. Threw the striker plate back on, so this is the one where the other door latch comes on and latches. I guess it latches on the latch. This was the cleaner of the two, gave it a wash, gave it a scrub. It's kind of an interesting like aluminum kind of piece, so I didn't want to hit it too hard. So he's good to go. Gonna go snag some of the other bits. We'll probably drop in the top one first and give that a push through. I do need to track down some hardware. I should have somewhere. I brought it up. Well, sunlight's back out, so it's a new day. And your battery died, which is an interesting way of saying all this stuff took a little bit longer than I would have guessed. It's funny how once you get away from assembly and back into like parts cleaning and refurb, stuff like that slows you down. But this door is sitting pretty good. I did manage to get the upper lower latch tagged on. I just took a guess. The guess was actually pretty good. So that's nice. Got the upper latch in there and doing its thing. Got the lower latch in there doing its thing. I do need to run to the hardware store and pick up some M6s in a cap head screw. For some reason, these are supposed to be an M5. Real steel punched them out to an M6. Why, I don't know, but it's going to make me run to the hardware store because I don't have any more M6 cap head screws, kind of like that. I just threw an old one in there. It's kind of crusty, but same deal. Bottom latch is doing its job. Handle's just sitting on there, but he's where he needs to be. I seem to recall it sitting at kind of a funny little angle. It is a lift up latch. There really isn't a lot of adjustment there. You got to have it so the lower does what it needs to. I don't recall exactly, and I don't know that you could get it to do what it's supposed to there, but it is kind of the angle up is the same as the angle down, so I think that's probably right. And then yeah, I got the striker plate on for the other door, but there's no weather strip on, but it latches nice and tight on the bottom, gives a good flush line there, and if you pull him out to the top, he's nice and flush there. So everything's feeling pretty good. Latch works like it's supposed to. So that's one door mostly done. I do need to hit this guy with the buffer. If you swing him on out again. This is the cover plate that goes here. I'm going to try just hitting it with the compound and buff. It's got obviously some scuffs and scratches, but it is kind of neat to leave a little bit of the original patina on some of these parts like this where you can. If I need to, I'll shoot it. I do have a little bit of the pewter left that we used on the heater and the seat backs and stuff. But yeah, you can see it's kind of the same dealio. But yeah, if we can just buff it up, I may leave that just kind of as a neat little piece, but that's minor. I do need to scrub this guy as well, and that's the pin for the handle. So those are all kind of some last minor bits. Obviously, I do need to do the weather stripping, and I need some denatured alcohol to clean things up nice, and I'll get that on the same run as getting the M6s. And we'll see if we run into anything on this door. So time to start jamming on this latch, which should theoretically be slightly easier. I don't know. Some things I got to look at. I know on the old door there was a little bit of slop in this handle. What's driving that, I don't know. And there's going to be a little bit of fiddliness with the key. It's got a key lock on the back here, so there's some linkages and stuff that are going to be a little bit more of a pain. So this one had the up and down linkages that were a little fiddly. This one's going to have keyhole linkages. The nice thing is everything was kind of tucked up, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of rust and repaint kind of stuff on any of those. But we'll see as we get into it. But the hinges swing nice. They're nice and tight, nice and clean. So that's a good thing. Got a little bit of schmutz here and there. But otherwise, it is nice having good tight hinges again. And the old scooter axle trick does work pretty well. I wish you could find them in stainless because then it would match the hardware. You can see the color is a little different. But it is nice to be able to service those hinges. Factory, they're a rolled rivet head. So I'm going to go drag out the workbench and start pulling apart that other door and see what we got. So I'm gonna go haul these doors back to the shed, get them out of the garage. We don't need them for anything for a while. Then we'll work on cleaning up these parts and getting them back on the door. Focus, you. So this is the outer door handle. If you dunk it on in, it comes out the other side. There is a little bit of slop in that hole. Just a little bit of clearance. Apparently that is fairly factory. They do have real thin little plastic nylon washer. What I'm going to do, as long as I got a little bit of time, I'm going to try and make a bushing, kind of like on the hinges and stuff. It's like a hat. So we can take up that slop in this hole and then taper out into that, what would they be, that flat washer. We've got a little bit of room as well, so it doesn't have to be super thin. So I'm going to try and model that up and crank one of those out, kind of an ABS on the 3D printer. Might take up just that little bit of slop on the handle and give it that nice new feeling. So I'm going to go and get that running because it'll probably take an hour or so to print. Just got to get some measurements of what the ID of that hole is and the OD of this shaft, and then we're in business. But yeah, nice to get that going so we can get that cooking while we work on cleaning up the rest of this, and then we'll be back in business. Because yeah, this guy's got to get thrown in the degreaser and cleaned up. So anyway, let's get this guy printing and then we'll be back at it. So yeah, kind of interesting. You can see how it wore over the years. This guy's on. So if you measure vertically, it's about 13 mil, which when you pull on the handle, you're going to wear that upper lower. If you measure side to side, it's like 12/7. So basically there's 0.3 millimeters worth of slop, and that's kind of what you're feeling in that handle, is that up and down play, which is just years of that guy getting worn down. So I think we can still make an oblong bushing. It'll be a little bit weirder, but easy peasy. There goes the gray squirrel chasing the white squirrel. So I had a little bit of a lunch break, back at her. Get out of the way, cords. I'm printing off a few bushings. Whoops. Usually I run off a couple. I think I spit out 3. This is one that's left over. I did have to whittle them down just a little bit. It is kind of an oblong shape. But got her tucked in there. It is nice and snug. Obviously this end's loose. But good tight fit on that handle now. So that'll let us start chipping away on the inner here. I'm going to go grab those parts. They're kind of cleaned up, ready to roll. Should be able to put that plate on, then you can start tying that handle back in, then you can start dealing with the lock. All that jazz, although the lock cylinder probably got going first. But anyway, we're going to get you in the stand, get the parts coming on over, and start getting this door back together. battery's about dead. Come on. So yeah, there she is, all buttoned up. Put the plastic handle that was off this door onto the mechanism, which is off of the original door. Same way, stole the plastic handle, glued it up. Does the deed. Everything's nice and tight. There's no slop in this handle at all anymore, which is pretty nice. I don't remember it not having that slop. So that's pretty cool. Got the handle strap back on. That's all buttoned up. Hopefully we don't have to pull him back off to do the weather strip, because it's going to run kind of back in there. I'm hoping we can tuck it in. Worst case, we got to pop those 2 screws out. He's easy to adjust. This side can stay because there's no weather strip here. So last piece is hiding in here with its handle button. So yeah, I'm going to give this guy a quick buff, clean him up, and I think we'll let it ride because there's a little bit of patina on that handle too. But I'm going to get him cleaned up and we'll bring you back. Yeah, time to ditch these gloves. So hit it with the buffer. It's got a good shine to it. Obviously there's some chips and scratches, but I can live with those. What that is in the corner. So it's just a few of these sheet metal clips. Nothing too fancy. Pick the better of the bunch. Yeah, so there she is. Joink, joink. Obviously, weather strips up next. Got to do daily chores of grocery shopping, and on the way I'm going to go pick up some denatured alcohol. Got to have that to clean everything up so she sticks, is the word on the street. But the nice thing is we got this guy, which closes nicely. Latches seem to be adjusted pretty well. Grab a few of my tools out of here. Boy, everything in here. Those guys can go up front. Tools can go on the toolbox. This guy can close gently. Yeah, so there we go. I'm going to go grab the license plate holder, and we can work on getting that guy dunked on. Jiggle, jiggle. Cool. So I do have the guts. I got to get them sandblasted, repainted. There's a little chrome cover and some plastic lights. And then the wires run through. Guts all ready to go. It's just a bullet connector there. But that is most of the rear doors. Weather strip tomorrow. Cool. Well, as you can see, it's a new day again. Another day. Change my mind, door came back off. Just pulled the pins. The nice thing is I don't have to readjust the hinges, so we'll give that a go. But figured it would just be easier to work on the stand. This is just sitting there. It's not glued on or anything. I was just trying out the clamps. I'll probably pick up a few more at lunch. I think I got 2, 4, 6, 8. Need a few more. They work all right. They're nothing special. I did run you can kind of see here that blue protective transport wrap down the face keeps anything from scuffing it when you're working on it, and also kind of don't have to worry about the clamps doing anything, and any stray glue. So it's just kind of a nice, easy thing to do. But yeah, just had this for a test fit. I did, way back when, I kind of took a guess as to what this corner would look like. I left a lip just to give that a little bit of extra structure on the bottom. Realistically, that should have been folded over. The weather strip does come around the corner, so they bring it all the way around. I just ended up cutting a notch in the weather strip to tuck over my lip, so it's kind of not a bad thing. It'll give it a little extra grip on the glue, and I still have a little bit of structure there. But yeah, going back, I should have just folded that over and kind of made it what it would have been, but I didn't have an example to go on, so I kind of took a guess. Anywho, I'm gonna yank this weather stripping off. It's kind of laying down pretty nice. Got a pretty good idea where it's gonna go. We'll get this cleaned up with denatured alcohol, both this guy and the door. We'll lay a bead on both, let them sit, and then we should be able to tack it on, give it a clamp. Theoretically, it should set up pretty quick, but let's see what we can do. Well, got her all cleaned up. Gave her multiple wipes with the denatured alcohol just to make sure she's good and clean. Gonna give this a real thin bead around the door face. It's already poked with a small opening, so it should let us get a nice small bead. Might grab, well, the denatured alcohol might work, or some acetone in case I need to clean up any schmoo. We'll give that a run around. I got a little flat stick just to help smear it out a little bit, although I can use my fingers as well. Really, if it goes up the door a little bit, not a big deal either, because the weather strip makes an L. They've kind of got a flat side on both. I may see how they did the OEM. I don't know if they put any adhesive up the back. They may have, just to help give it a little extra bond. But otherwise, going to run that over. I'm going to run some on the back side of this fella as well. Same deal, smear it, kind of like the headliner, let it sit, let it tack, and then you can dunk it on. So away we go. Well, there it is. It is dunked on. It does set up pretty darn quick. You do kind of get a one-go kind of deal. Laid down pretty good. No real complaints. I did leave I gotta do these tail ends. I didn't think I could get them around the corner in one fell swoop, which is fine. And I may actually come back and peel this guy back, put a little bit in that crease and push him up against the base. This is the bottom of the door, and I know it's kind of a little bit tighter fit, takes a little bit more of a beating. So we can peel him down, put a little bead up in there, let it set, and then press him up, kind of pull it with some tape probably. And it should help support this bottom gasket a little bit better, although it's on there pretty tight. Yeah, I'm sure over the time it would set as well, but a little bit of either that or a little bit of super glue cyanoacrylate might be able to put a little drop, hold them up, little drop, hold them up, kind of work down, just to help give that a little bit of extra support. But we're going to let that sit. I'm going to go run and pick up a few extra clamps for the other door because you got to make it all the way around. And we'll see how we did with this one. We'll probably throw it back on the rig. Well, back from lunch, gave it some time to dry. It is nice and snug. Everything laid down pretty good. Did learn a few things on this door that we'll do on the other one. One, I may run a little bit of tape around the perimeter just to help keep any drips and droops. Just makes it easier to clean up. I did like doing the horizontal surface, and then if you need to, you can kind of pull it back and do the vertical to give it nice and snug. I don't think everywhere really needs that, but places that you needed to do, it was easy enough to do. Same way with these goofy corners. These guys, definitely was easier to do those after the fact. What I ended up doing was just putting some on that goofy part, press it up to transfer some adhesive to the painted side, opened it back up to let it tack up, and then pressed it back, and they both dunked on pretty good. But yeah, those are easy enough to do after the fact that I probably would not try and do them in one go, or you might end up with them stuck in some weird little spot. But otherwise, this is all sitting pretty good. The other trick that I found was if you have any goop that's kind of up where you don't want it, using one of these sticks, you can kind of rub it and get it to clear out. This one's dirty, so I can't really do it. But like there's a little bit here where you can see a little bit of the adhesive pressing up. If you just rub that down with something like this wooden popsicle stick, you can kind of get it to rub off typically. So it's not a big deal if you get stuff a little bit where you don't want it. It works best if you catch it right when it's kind of starting to set, but not real dry. You can kind of get it to roll off, but there you can see, kind of got that side cleaned up. Got to do the other side. So that seemed to work better than trying to do anything like solvent-wise. Solvents just tend to smear it around a little bit, let it tack up, and then just give it a little bit of a rub. This one's being a little more stubborn, but I think there's a bit there. But anyway, as long as you can, there it started to roll. Yeah, there we go. Come on, little buddy. Sometimes it's a matter of finding which edge wants to take off. But there you can see we're getting it cleaned up. Come on. Go, go, go. There we go. So yeah, that's probably the easier way to clean up any edges. Obviously, the less you can goop it around, the better. But anyway, I'm going to get this guy dunked back on, and then it'll clear up our table. Pull the other door off and get it on. And chew, there's a sneeze. Chew, there's another one. Pair of them. Anyway, I'm going to get that door on, get the other one off, and we'll get her, kind of repeat the same process. Well, there it is, all dunked back in. Laid in pretty good. A little bit of schmutz right there that I got to get off. That's pretty minor. This corner laid in all right. It is intended to be a wider flange there for the corner. This bottom, it's tight, as I expected. I wanted to peel out a little bit here, not peel out, but just kind of bunch up. So I gave it a little bit of a poke just to get it to kind of even out with the stick. And we'll let that sit. You know, it's going to take a little while for it to kind of bed in. But all in all, pretty good snug fit. Door definitely has no wobble or rattle anymore, so that's a good thing. Still got the rag on the tire carrier. I'm waiting on some rubber bumpers to put in this corner. And the same on the bottom. I got to do the rubber bumpers. So just kind of got it there as a safekeeping for now. But that's one door down. Hey, get out of there, tape. I'm going to blast this guy back off. I think I got to pull the license plate holder off. I had intended to leave the doors on, but they're coming back off. So not too hard, it's just three M6s. So we'll pop that guy off, throw it on the bench, do the same thing. He's going to be a little bit finicky little more fiddly just because it's a square all the way around versus 3 sides. But all in all, I think we should be pretty good. And then if we need to adjust any more, we'll see. May be able to bring this hinge over a little bit, but I think all in all, it's probably going to be where it's going to be, and we'll just have to let those gaskets age in like fine wine. Anywho, get this door off and get on to the next one. Well, threw the door back on. Got all the hinges, bolts back in. The scooter pins actually work pretty well once they kind of seat in. So there's one thing that would make it slightly easier to take the top on and off. So instead of peeling hinges, you can just pop that pin out. You would leave this hinge on the bottom, but it might be a better way to mount a tailgate, kind of a quirky tailgate. Anyway, did get the weather strip on. I did end up having, she did not want to close, she was tight. So what I ended up doing was grabbing the old favorite lemon dish soap, just gave a real light rub around the weather strip, and then you could kind of pop the door shut. So I'm going to let that sit. I'd open it for you, but I really don't want to. Those doors are nice and snug. There's a little bit sticking out here on the corner. I would wager I can kind of push that back. Might be one of those ones that you can trim to. I did see someone on one of the forums kind of had the same question where it's like that's sticking out a little bit weird. I have a hunch that's how it's kind of supposed to be. It is an OEM gasket and it is tucked up tight in the corners. It's just kind of there to help seal those goofy edges. But otherwise, it is definitely tight. There is no rattling going on back there anymore. Doors are lined up pretty good. With the pressure on them, they're still holding tight. I don't know, can you see it in there? Maybe? I wasn't sure what was binding, so I took off that striker wedge. Really doesn't make a big difference right now. We'll let those gaskets seat. And then one of these days, we'll just go on and put that striker wedge back in there. But yeah, there they are, all buttoned up. I don't see any daylight, so that's a good thing. We'll see when we take a drive if we get any whistles or anything. Obviously in the back, I've got a little bit of work to do on the rear license plate lights, so that's what those two holes are. You probably can barely see them right above my fingers. There's just a couple grommets and wires that run over to that corner for the license plate lights, but those are still vacant. They're sitting on the bench in the basement. They just got to get cleaned up and dunked in. Obviously not a huge priority. It is kind of a weird license plate holder. I feel like the license plate should be up another bit. It's just one of those things where you'd feel like this is centered on the license plate. I think it's made for like a Euro or a Japanese plate, I assume, kind of longer and wider versus our more 16 by 9-ish. I don't know what our ratio is. Anyway, pretty happy. Handles are nice and snug. I was wondering how that was going to tighten up, but that is real tight. But that's the rears basically done. I did go snag the old crusty fronts out of the shed. We got to strip the parts out of those. I think I'm going to do the same play over here though. I'm going to dunk the doors on empty because they're lighter without the glass in. Glass is a heavy little bugger. But should be able to kind of wing those doors around, get them on the hinges and lined up. Then we can pull them back off, put the weather strip on, put the guts back in, and then throw them back on the rig. So it's just easier to get things aligned and those hinges set first, especially when the doors are a little bit lighter and you can kind of reach in and have a better grip. So I think that is the plan next up. Gonna have to reconfigure the garage and start snagging those front doors. First things first though, just gotta make some gaskets for the hinges. May bring you along, may not, probably not, we'll see. And then yeah, we can start hanging those front doors, and then it'll be kind of neat because that's really the last major bit of body work to have it back together as a full. Obviously you can run it with the top off, but yeah, onward.